Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in here for a mid-afternoon murder church here. Thank you all so much for coming in. Appreciate it. I've got Jack from Never a Truer Word going to be dropping some knowledge here. We're going to be looking at a rarely looked at Charles Manson interview. Asked him to do some analysis on this, and I'm excited that he was down to do it. Yeah, buckle in. This is going to be quite the ride. Please give it a like on the old YouTubes. I appreciate it. If you could share it out on X, appreciate that as well, guys. Let's rock and roll.
Let's rock.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back for the second edition of Murder Church today. Hell yeah. I've been, for the last few weeks, and maybe even longer than that now, I've been randomly throwing an extra show in here on Sundays. It's been working out. It's going to have a little bit of extra time, not only on Saturday, but on Sunday. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming in. Quick plug real quick before we bring Jack in here. If you are not in, first of all, the Buzz Nation club in general, being a member here, you're going to want to do so because we're doing a book club. Just started it up. We've only met once. So basically this coming Tuesday after the normal Murder Church night, probably about 9:30ish, we'll go over to the members only book club. We're starting to read The Stranger Beside Me. It's a book by Anne Rule, who worked with Ted Bundy. She worked with him at a call center. I believe it was a suicide hotline call center. And then after he got arrested, she continued to be his friend until his execution. And I've never read this book. And the book club is really kind of motivating me as well to start reading more. But yeah, if you're not in there, the way to do so is to become a member. Thought I'd give a quick plug there. But today, right now, I'm excited about this. This interview we are watching, again, I keep calling it a rarely seen interview. You know, it's not that it's not known or out there, and maybe you've even seen this if you've ever done deep dives into Charles Manson and interviews, you know, trying to get a little bit closer to the madness, or if you're like me and you've always kind of been infatuated with this story from Hollywood, from Los Angeles, from the 60s. But this one right here is just a little bit different. Usually when Charles Manson is being interviewed about people like Geraldo Rivera or other news publications that the reputation is known. This is a little bit different. This is done by a guy by the name of Nikolas Schreck. At the time, he was married to Zena LaVey, the daughter of Anton LaVey, who ran the Church of Satan. They together ran the Church of Satan during the Satanic Panic in the late 80s into the early 90s before they broke off as well. But this is where Nikolas Schreck befriended Charles Manson and kept a lifelong friendship with him, and has written numerous books giving his own depictions on what happened that night, or those nights rather, in California in 1969. But what I'm interested in today, Jack from Never a Truer Word, somebody that analyzes language and words and breaks it down here on YouTube, who is incredible. We've had him on here before, and I'm really excited to have him on right now. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Jack, what's up, man?
Hey Steve, how are you? I'm good. It's evening here in the UK, and we had time difference because your clocks went forward today.
They did.
Sorting this out.
Dude.
We rendezvoused perfectly, but yeah, it's gone really black here.
Completely broke both of our brains trying to figure that out. Like, dude, had to get ChatGPT to break down exactly. Dude, I was sitting here like, no, it goes forward. Even this morning, I was still like confused. But yeah, we lost an hour. I think is what it turned out to be. So, but yeah, we figured it out.
We're here. It's good.
So I was intrigued, honestly, just that you're not really, like, you've never done a deep dive into the Manson murders.
No, I'm horrible admission to me. I'm not a massive true crime fan or true crime junkie. So I'm not someone that obsesses over every story. So when something is really well known, I quite often go, I don't know very much about this. I know the top line details on this, but it was only when we started talking about doing this, I realized how little I actually knew about the entire story. In fact, and then once we start working on something like this, I don't, as much as I want to go on Wikipedia, as much as I want to go on Google and find out what happened, I pull back. So even this afternoon, I was thinking, when did the murders happen? Was it the early 70s, late 70s? I don't know. So I'm completely in the blind here.
No, that's actually incredibly interesting because this is one it's hard to get away from, but I also understand that. And I'm also glad that you didn't go diving even deeper. But I mean, even if you would have, there's not really there's an overall general narrative consensus that I guess was originally put out, which was through Vincent Bugliosi, who was the prosecutor who wrote Helter Skelter. That's kind of the general overall narrative. But since then, honestly, Nikolas Schreck, who we're watching here, respectively has his own takes. And then Tom O'Neill, who wrote Chaos. And again, I've been promoting the hell out of that book. It goes down a slightly another alternate kind of road. So, there's 3 hardcore different narratives that have now at least kind of made mainstream, I would say. So,
right.
But yeah, dude, everybody's kind of got their take on it.
Yeah, well, listen, as you introduced me, I only look at the words that people use. So knowing the evidence or the facts or even the theories would not sway me here, because having had an interesting week digging into this crazy world of Charles Manson, I've got some things I've noticed. And quite often, if you watch some of my episodes, I'm all about being a little bit picky with words and the sort of just a little bit fastidious about why have they used that word. This guy uses so many and has so many thoughts popping off. I found it a bit better to look at the themes that he uses, the broader way that he uses words, and the words and concepts that he repeats quite a lot, because I think that will hopefully give us an insight into who he is and how his mind works, which is something.
What's also is going to be incredibly interesting, because I think I've watched every single Charles Manson interview there is. This is going to be the first one you ever watch, and it's the weirdest one. This is very unusual. The way Nikolas Schreck handles this is not like how anyone... Dude, Geraldo Rivera is basically fighting the man. They're just arguing.
I am. So, because I'm all about the words, the first thing I did was listen to this when I was driving in the car one night. So, none of the distraction of the pictures or body language or anything like that, just listening. Then I got a transcript and started reading all the words. And then this afternoon, I started to sit down to look at the bits that interested me against timestamps on the video, so we could actually go to certain parts of the video. And when I watched it, I was like, oh my God, dude, I didn't know any of this was going on. I could just hear the talking. I could not see
all of his craziness.
Walking about and yes. Dancing and all that stuff.
Yes.
It was wild.
And he will be animated with his arms and stuff, but this is the only one where he's really walking around in his area with the interviewer. Usually it's a little bit more, and I guess he's worked that out with Nikolas Schreck, and he said he's comfortable, whatever. But in some of these other ones, he's usually at least nailed to a chair. He does get animated, but this one is completely different. Now, this interview is from a film called Charles Manson Superstar that Nikolas Schreck put out after this interview, and he kind of puts his own, again, spin. He's done his own research, and he has a different take on what happened overall. He thinks ultimately that Charles Manson was, basically railroaded by the system. He wasn't the mastermind cult leader that everyone wants to make him out to be. But, I will, and this will be coming from you, and I can't wait to get your analysis just on the idea of how do you, because even, and this is just for me, just a lay person kind of looking at this, the way he interacts with Nicholas in this is very manipulative out the gate.
Yeah, I've got, so I think as we listen to him, I've got maybe some reasons as to why that is. If you actually look at just some of the words and the way he uses them, I think it gives a real insight into why he could be manipulative.
Cool. All right, guys, we're going to jump in right now. And again, Jack, at any moment in time, you want me to stop, just say pause, and we'll give her a pause, and we can jump in. And
go.
But everyone, seriously, hang on. This is going to be something. Let me make sure my sound's right. Should pop right on in here.
No. Yeah, totally. This will get up on that image book.
Yeah, but we're going to compete with that.
Yeah, this should dust him off. This should take care of his ass. Yeah.
This is the real thing.
Yeah.
I think you can have that.
It's actually a bit harder to hear Nikolas Schreck sometimes than him.
Yeah. Well, we won't only want to hear Charles, don't we?
That's true.
Get that back in the paper back.
So it's a good time to meet you. What are you doing?
All right, I got this one from a Japanese And a bullfighter. That's Australia. Bring the hook right up, right there. You don't mind if I don't sit down, do you? This is the only chance I get to get unhandcuffed. I got it. I got it. This is the only chance I get to come around unhandcuffed.
What we're going to try to do is, at first, just pretty much get your head in here, so, and then we're going to, just a close shot on your head, so.
You're not gonna, have you got your gun lined up in there?
We'll bring that together.
All right, as I give to you from this heart, you dig? We can keep up with that in the mail.
Okay, we will. It's good to finally see you in person.
Huh?
It's good to finally see you in person.
Yeah. It's nice of you to do all the things you've been doing, man. I really appreciate you.
Thanks.
There's a lot of young...
So just a little bit of backstory even there. Nikolas Schreck started taking it upon himself to get Charles Manson's case looked at again. He ultimately thought that Charles Manson was being screwed over and railroaded by the system. And again, being the ultimate mastermind behind the murders, but not actually killing someone.
Raising up like you.
Thanks.
How's Bogus? And
Fine.
yeah.
Sends his regards.
Yeah. LA's not doing too well, is it?
No, I got out of there.
Yeah, I figured. I was out of there myself a long time ago, yeah. Yeah, LA's not too cool.
Plan on coming here,
Yeah, we can't get into any music because we're in, what I'm locked into is a soulless little jealous punk.
I wanted to ask you think there's any way to eventually do that? Any other authorities?
Well, yeah, there's probably all kinds of ways we could do it.
You could beat on the table.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking, let me use that trash can down there, unless you want to pass a rule against that. No. Everything I do, they make a rule against it, see? If I wanted a bucket of shit, they'd tell me no, you can't have, and they'd pass a rule, send no buckets of shit, man. No matter what I want to do, they want to keep me from doing it. No matter what I want, they don't like it. They, in other words,
Okay, let's go there.
I got it.
What an intro.
That is the intro of this interview, folks.
What I pay attention to there is the very first things we say very often are a priority for us to mention. It's the things that are top of our head. So he's maybe been thinking about this all day. And what are the things I want to get across? And what are those things that he wants to get across? Well, number one, you mentioned the manipulative, and he's very charming. It's finally good to meet you in person, says the interviewer. And he's like, yeah, nice of you to do all the things you've been doing, man. I really appreciate you. So this is not some crazy ass murderer that he's meeting. This is a very charming person saying, hey, thank you for everything that you're doing. He asks after a mutual friend who's called Bogus or something like that, I think, as well. So he's showing interest in the guy. That's one of the ways that you build charm and rapport with people. Then he sits on two concepts that he returns to again and again in this interview. One of them is he starts off talking about handcuffs and not having handcuffs on, and then he talks about the rules that he's under inside prison. So he really dislikes this idea of restraint, because the first thing he talks about is having handcuffs off, and then he talks about all these rules that are put on him in prison, or the fact that he thinks if he starts enjoying something, they're going to bash him down and make rules going on against it. And then the other one, and he talks about music all the way through this interview. The full interview is an hour, and he keeps talking about music and how he makes his music. But there is no depth whatsoever about anything he ever says in music. He just refers to it as my music. He doesn't talk about it. What is music? He doesn't talk about the lyrics. He doesn't talk about the genre of music that's there. He doesn't talk about what sort of music he enjoys or how he creates music or anything like that. He just talks about his music all the time. And it's as if he wants to impress with this artistic quality that he has, that he's always making music. Although I don't think he is, because he's got nothing real to say about it, apart from, I'm always making music. But it's the first thing he mentions, and he goes back to it time and time and time again.
Interesting. Yeah, okay, nice. And at this point in his life, I don't think that he was making music. I think they had basically taken everything from him. When he first got into jail, there's actually a complete album that was released, that was recorded in jail. But before that, he actually got very close to making it. The Beach Boys actually recorded one of his songs. Didn't give him credit. Didn't give him credit for it. And he lived with Dennis Wilson for a while from the Beach Boys with his girls. And that's when he found that one song. It's called "Cease to Exist" that Charlie wrote. But he actually recorded an entire album in '68 that was going to be a demo that nothing ever did come of that. And to go without going too deep, he, a lot of people, and this is something I do agree with, the initial murders in the house that they happened in with Sharon Tate. The person that lived in that house previously was Terry Melcher, who was a record producer and who was supposedly the one that was going to be making him famous. And then that never did come to fruition, of course, and he got real bitter.
Right. Well, this plays into one of the other themes that I spot, which is for someone who's got all this bravado and swagger as he's there, inside his words, he is very, very insecure. He is constantly saying, you dig, which we'll hear a lot here, which is very much a phrase of the time. And it does come across as one of those, a crutch phrase when we all know someone who says like a lot or a lot. Well, his is you dig. But if you look at what that means is he's hoping and checking that this is whatever he's saying has resonated with the person talking. So he's constantly checking that what he says has resonated. He's not just saying things and not caring about the impact that he's making. He wants that impact to be there. And you'll also see in other phrases as we go on that there is an incredible insecurity there. He wants to be admired. He wants to be well liked. He wants to be respected. And there you go. If the music thing is a very big priority for him because he's talking about it a lot, but it didn't quite take off, well, that's something else that would play to someone's insecurity of, God, I can't even get music right.
That's a great point, actually. Yeah, he's like, once upon a time, I did have this thing. You dig? Like, it was music. You dig? But, I didn't. But yeah, that he's always going back to you dig to make sure that I guess they're still with him in the interview.
Yeah. So insecure.
Interesting.
I'm very capable, and I'm unhandcuffed. It's altogether different game.
So what I want to do here is I don't really want to sit and ask you questions that you probably heard a million times before. I just want to talk about a few topics and let you reflect on them.
Well, see, the way I communicate is...
So rather than do the DA routine.
The way I communicate is in music. It's like to know someone, you start in the fingertips. You can know me in my fingers. You can know me in my hands. You can know me in my arms. In other words, I'm something inside that goes beyond words. Words, blah, 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 they're a bunch of fucking biscuits. That's what they teach you in school. I live from here.
What would you tell the people out there that...
Fuck the people out there.
That don't know you.
I don't give a fuck whether they know. Anybody that don't know themselves don't know me. I don't give a fuck about people. I'm looking out for this guy. Right here.
You're not angry how the media has portrayed you as this villainous monster.
What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. The media is a rerun. Public opinion's a little girl. It's a toilet paper commercial. It's got nothing to do with reality. Reality's here. Reality's now, you dig? And reality is that I'm giving you this guy here. You dig what I'm saying? Then I'll get that.
Well, you say you're at a holy war against certain people.
Pollution. It's the only solution for survival on the planet Earth.
Although he does do an early rap song there with his pollution, it's the only solution. At the beginning of that extract, I don't know what it means, but we've seen the focus on the handcuffs when he comes in and he's talking about being handcuffed. And then he continues to talk about this area of his body when he says, someone, you start in the fingertips. You can know me in my fingers and know me in my hands, and you can know me in my arms. And I was wondering, my only thought around that is when you get restrained, that's where you get restrained the most, isn't it? Your arms are the things that are held. So I wonder if, again, it's that sort of rebellion against the restraint that has been imposed on him there, because he really seems to be amazingly obsessed with the fact that he is unhandcuffed and his arms can be expressive. That might just be that, as you said, he's an expressive hand talker when he talks, and that if you're handcuffed, well, that must be a lot harder to be expressive. So maybe he's just enjoying the freedom that's there. And then he goes on to another concept, which is all the way through this, which is this sort of, I don't know what I would call the concept. Is it altered reality? Is it dual reality? Is it the fact, is it about deception? Because he talks about knowing anybody. I don't give an F whether they know that they don't know themselves, don't know me. He says, reality is here, reality is now, you dig? So he's got this concept of reality in his head, which also suggests to me he must have the other concept, which is a non-reality or something that's fake, which is going on as well, which is why I wonder, I think there's definitely something going on mentally with the guy, but I wonder how real all of that is, or whether he's actually playing a part that he thinks people want to see, or even just a part that he wants to play, because this sort of illusion versus reality theme plays all the way through this interview. It's very high up in his head.
Well, I'm actually going to go ahead and tackle something right now, since you've said that, because it kind of leads into, so Tom O'Neill's real takeaway from this, and a lot of the research that he's done, he's under the impression that Charles Manson was a part of the MK Ultra experiments that was happening in Los Angeles and in Haight-Ashbury in 1968, which there is proof of, which there is CIA documents that have now been declassified that you can read, that they were, actively trying to basically, kill the hippie movement at the time, and this revolution of all of these people. There's 50,000 people, 50,000 teens and kids that went to the, they're trying to stamp this out, especially with the Vietnam War going on at the time. That's an outside, this only came about within the last few years when Tom O'Neill put out the book Chaos. And there's an individual by the name of Jolly West. He comes up through history multiple times, CIA agent, psychologist. He has something to do with the JFK deal. After Jack Ruby killed Oswald,
Man, this is deep.
He went and spoke to Jack Ruby for like 18 hours, and then after that, he declares that Jack Ruby is insane. Before that, there was nothing about that. So, and not to get too deep again into the weeds, but what Tom O'Neill found out was that the family and Charles Manson would go to this clinic in Haight-Ashbury over and over and over. It was like a free clinic for hippies, you can imagine the venereal diseases and stuff that they wanted to take care of at the time, so they wouldn't get out of control. But Jolly West actually was at this clinic as well. So people are kind of putting in, was there some kind of, and to go even a step further, Charles Manson got out of an 8-year prison stint in 1967 for stealing a car. When he got out, within the 2-year period from 67 to 69, when they actually got arrested for the murders, they were arrested numerous times over and over for drugs, for stealing cars, and they would always be released immediately. And in some of the paperwork that Tom O'Neill has found, essentially the arrests the cops put in their paperwork, this is above our pay grade. So you coming in and saying he's disillusioned, and I mean, and Jolly West basically was someone that messed with folks' heads in MK Ultra experiments. That kind of leads credence to that idea.
Well, it is a theory, and you will see it all the way through this interview of reality. He talks about reality. He talks about mirror images. He talks about this theory. I think that there's a reality, there's a truth, and then there is a mirror. There is a different reality. There is something else that we can see. So it's definitely ingrained in him. So that would make a lot of sense if he's been involved in whatever that has screwed up his brain. Even as you're talking there, I'm thinking that my reality is if I got arrested for drugs or stealing cars, my reality is I'd be in a lot of trouble. Whereas all of a sudden, if you're getting away with it all, reality is a very different thing, a very different concept to you.
And right here, actually, Crack in studio puts up a great point. He begged not to be released. Also, in the paperwork, when he's actually released in 67, he put a note in there that said, I don't want to go. This is my home. And they're like, no, dude, you got to get the hell out of here. We got work to do. We got work for you on the street. Like, but that's very, dude, what you just said kind of blew my mind because, yeah, that leads credence right into Tom O'Neill. And again, Tom has a lot of receipts that make you go, what's going on here? So, and again, the original theory on this, Vincent Buccioli, the prosecutor, was really pushing hard and did push hard and convinced people that, you know, this person had special, you know, he was so manipulative that he had powers over these kids. You know, they were a lot younger than him at the time. I think he was in his mid 30s when it happened, and they're mostly 18, 19, 20, 21, just coming in again to the hippie movement there. But, you know, they're pushing that he has some kind of actual witchy ability. You know, he's some kind of magician. Like, that's really how they kind of painted him.
Wow. I mean, I don't see that when he's talking here at all. He's a very, he can turn the charm on when he wants, but you might have already seen he's very negative when he talks. You know, he's very often, excuse me, saying what's not happening or what shouldn't happen or the bad things that go on in the world, which is not the sort of rhetoric that is used by cult leaders who will maybe sell you the bad stuff somewhere but tell you the good stuff is over here. But he doesn't have much of the good stuff going on in the way that he talks.
Dude, yeah, you really blew my mind there.
It's a revolution against pollution. It's like all the animals are running this way, and a lion comes on the picture.
What he's getting into right now, I forget what did he call it. What he just said. Atwa, I think it's like awareness. I'll have to look it up here on the side, but essentially he was at this point in his life became like this environmentalist type guy, right? Like he was all about earth and water, and we need to protect this earth that we have. And he did, I mean, dude, he had, you know, for lack of a better term, still a cult outside of prison that were young folks still even in this day, like that were then on this, they were on board with the non-pollution stuff.
Well, he goes through a lot of this. He's about to talk about animals, but he really he has a distaste of life. He doesn't like people. You can see that when he talks. Even when he's talking about animals, he's talking about animals and predators and so on. So I think he's been really ripped apart by life. He has no trust in human beings at all, and he talks about the planet. He talks about flowers and trees at one point, or something like that. That is his happy place. People who cannot argue, people who cannot control him. Sorry, not people. Things that cannot control him because he's liking plants and trees.
That is amazing. Yeah, and I'm looking it up here. Air, trees, water, animals, and all the way alive. That's what he kind of started. And again, yeah, had some ladies on the outside that still push that. And even still to this day, I've told you I'm in like this group and still kind of keep an eye on this stuff. And there's people that are still firmly like, you know, they're like, yeah, Charles Manson was actually okay because of this. Right? Like,
way. All the animals are all divided all up. All the people are out there playing all these games. A bigger fear comes. They all get together and they all run in one direction. The peace plan is that Schultz and all them guys are playing in the Middle East. It doesn't have any fear in it. It doesn't mean anything. It's a bunch of fucking old assholes talking about old rhetoric.
What
you know?
do you think the meaning of fear is?
The fear is you'll do it or die. It's that simple.
Do you think that's what the world needs?
That's the only way it's going to survive. But that's not got nothing to do with my world. That's their world.
What's your world?
My world's out there in that junkyard. You know my world's in that picture.
Yeah.
You know what pictures my world's in. I'm there, and we're not throwing rocks. You know, they're over there throwing rocks. You know, if that's what their game is, then that's where they're going, and it's got nothing to do with where I'm running. You know, where I'm running is you know, I run in the alley. I run in darkness. If I was sitting up there where I had my fingers on the buttons, it'd be a different game altogether.
You talk a lot about a lack of order.
Let's look at some of that there.
Yeah, there's no.
The real focus there is not on animals, it's on running which I thought was a very strange thing, because he talks about the animals running when a predator comes up, they all run another way, and then they all run in one other direction when a greater fear comes up. And then he says, when I'm running, where I run the alley, I run in the darkness. So he's talking about running all the time, which again makes me think of this insecure person that is running away from something. He knows he's running away from something. Look, it's not a big leap with someone who is like Charles Manson, but I'm guessing he had a horrific childhood or something like that. Right.
His mother gave him away for like a bottle of booze.
Oh, nice.
It's horrible. He spent his entire childhood in boys' homes and was abused, and he did have a horrific. He literally was only out of prison for like, and including being a child, if you want to count a boys' home, for like, I mean, less than a decade. Like his entire life is in these facilities.
He skirts in this interview. He skirts around childhood a hell of a lot. He doesn't really talk about it. He doesn't talk about. I think he mentions his mother and father like once, very passing there. But he's so. I'm sticking together this insecure thing that I've got from him, and also this running away from something, running away from fear. Also the fact he's in prison. So it's not a genius deduction to go, he had a very hard childhood, but I think he still is running away from that, which is kind of sad, really, because
it is really sad.
You know, whatever else we turn out and do in life, and we all have an element of control over us. When you haven't had the best start in life, then it always makes it harder to have a great sort of middle and end life.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you know, you can look at someone like this and still feel for the human that used to be them, you know what I mean, or something inside of them, or whatever happened in their childhood. Because he had a horrific life. And again, whichever narrative you kind of fall into, again, like I told you before we actually started, I think it's a mixture of all three. But I mean, he never really seemingly had a chance, you know what I mean? But I mean, we've also seen folks who didn't have a chance that pulled themselves out and didn't start a cult and have people murdered. So
yes, exactly. There is that.
Ain't nothing in that, man.
But I mean, dude, in the Nikolas Schreck version and narrative, he basically paints Charlie more as like, you know, he was a part of this, and you know, this was his group. But the real person that was behind the murders was another person that's in prison right now that committed them, Tex Watson. Who again, Tex Watson says that, you know, he was a part of the cult. He was the mastermind was Manson. He sent them out that night. You know, all of that again, seemingly true, but. You know, Nikolas Schreck's version of this is basically Manson was more of a drug dealer, a pimp, you know, car thief. He's not a good guy. He is a criminal, but he's also not a murderer, you know. So he's kind of taking out the whole aspect of him having any kind of control over these people. But dude, you throw in LSD, the time period. I mean, LSD is very powerful.
And you're about 1 minute away from having one of those theories confirmed, I believe.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
There's no order because incompetent assholes like this run your world. These are the fucking ding-dings that run your world, man. Look at him. Fat hanging off his fucking jaws. He's an incompetent piece of shit. You dig? He wear black cowboy boots and play off this guy and pay that guy to hold me down. You dig what I'm saying? And then come back around on the other side and talk about, I'm a white guy. I'm a white brother. You dig what I'm saying? What do I think about race? Everybody look out for themselves. I look out for this guy. This is my race. Comes out of my dickhead, man. My race comes out of me. You know, I'm my race. I live on my planet, my world, my desert, my thought. And it took me 22 years to get through these fucking hallways.
Stop there.
This is what I'm mad about, to land my thought.
Just a little thing there that makes me think he's much sharper than he's going on. Is that he's asked, what do you think about race? Always a controversial subject. There's not a question that you want to, boom, just give a snap answer to. And he asks the question back, which is what someone of very sound mind would do to buy themselves some thinking time to form the answer that they want to say. So he's asked, what do you think about race? And he says, what do I think about race? And then he gives his answer there. So I think he's actually, you know, for all this, I think he's a hell of a lot sharper. than he is giving the impression of through all his actions there. He doesn't do it very often, but when I saw that and heard that, I was like, this is not some loose cannon firing off stuff. That's a sensitive topic. It will always be a sensitive topic. What do you think about race? You want to form an answer in your head that's going to not offend someone, or maybe offend someone if that's what you want to do, but you want to get across the right thing. And he took time to think about it there.
And race is a big part of his story as well. Let's just paint it like this: the official narrative from the prosecutor goes into the fact that so Charles Manson did shoot a drug dealer who was black, and he wasn't a Black Panther, but Charles Manson was convinced that he was a Black Panther. So he started telling, again, this is going back to the initial narrative. He started telling his family, we're about to have a race war with the Black Panthers. They were about to come in and fuck us up because I've shot this guy that's a part of them, who also was not actually officially a part of the Black Panthers. So when these murders actually did take place, they were trying, at least in the narrative, again, that's how I'm kind of painting this right now. They paint it as they were trying to start a race war after these murders. So, or pin them on the Black Panthers. So yeah, that's interesting.
So he was navigating that one quite carefully then.
He was, yes. He's already thinking, where's he? Because again, Nikolas Schreck, even though they became friends, this is the day they became friends. So he doesn't know, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't, they probably corresponded a little bit, but yeah, that's still such a, you got to walk a line with that question.
Yeah.
Down on that desert. In other words, these guys come in here, they're trying to work their thoughts out. I already got my thought out. My thought's already out. I already worked it out. And I didn't break the law. That's what's got me so fucking mad. That's what got me so balled up. I didn't break the law. I got some friends that killed some people. But my friends have always been killing people. I live in the underworld. My friends have always been that's part of the life I live.
What do you think about killing and murder?
Each person, you got to be responsible for you, man. You got to be responsible for your actions. If you want to give me your life.
So that's the only part in the interview where he really goes on to the talks about the famous murders. He's not asked about them. He brings it up himself in some real bizarre segue that makes no sense from talking about race, into these murders. And he says, my thoughts already out. I already worked it out, and I didn't break the law. Interesting to me, because you either break the law or you didn't break the law. You do not need to work out whether you broke the law or not. So that suggests to me there is some breaking the law going on.
So interesting.
But he's decided to give it this sort of personal definition that gives him some comfort that I didn't break the law. In my head, I didn't break the law, so it's all right. Like when you do something bad, like you maybe take someone's last chocolate and you think, I was hungry, or I'm saving them, they're on a diet, so I'm actually, I'm doing them a favor by having the last chocolate. You give yourself that personal comfort of some's justification for doing something. He says, I worked it out and I didn't break the law. That's what's got me so effing mad. That's what's got me so boiled up. I didn't break the law. I got some friends that killed some people. Now, there's a lot of distancing going on there, some friends, some people, but he's bringing up killing. He's not backing off from killing and going, got some friends that did some things, or he didn't have to mention these murders at all at this point. I got some friends that killed some people, but then, and this goes to your point about drug dealing and so on, but my friends have always been killing people. I live in the underworld, which is kind of criminality that he's talking about there, rather than cultishness. But again, it's this strange justification. I've got some friends that killed some people, but my friends have always been killing people. It's no real justification. Again, it's a sort of logic that you form in your head, or he's formed in his head, to give himself comfort. It's like me saying, people murder people every day, so I might as well go and murder someone tomorrow because, people are always doing it. It doesn't make it right. It's just that he's creating some narrative inside his head that doesn't really pass any logic test, but gives him some comfort when he's saying it. He's asked, what do you think about killing and murder? And he doesn't talk about killing or murder. Again, he creates that distance and that softening. He says, each person, you got to be responsible for you, man. You got to be responsible for your actions. So that would, I don't know, I mean, just thinking about that there, that suggests maybe there is some cult likeness there. That I ran a cult, but I didn't tell people to. I didn't actually go and do the killing. You got to be responsible for what you do. That could be what he's talking about there. Well, I was drawn to that line about the underworld in there because it's not a word that we hear a lot of people using, and I just think that what really runs through all of this is kind of criminality and also that sort of justification that criminals will give for criminality. Got to feed the kids. Everyone's doing it. The government rob money off us every year, so why shouldn't I rob money off other people? Or, those sorts of things that don't stand up to any logic tests, but people who do bad things will come up with these convoluted reasons. And that sounds like a little bit like what he is doing here.
Dude, yeah, you're really blowing my mind with this. So I'll give it just a little bit more insight here. So the night after the Tate murders, 5 people were killed that night at the Tate residence. The very next night, so that happened August 8th. They, that's when texts went in with different members of the girls. They did the murders. The very next night, apparently, again, I'm going to go back and mostly into the original narrative by the prosecutor here. But and there is actual fact in here as well that we do know and that he admits to. But so the very next night, he says that the first night was too messy. So he accompanies Text and some other girls to the next night, the Libyanka residence. And when he actually goes inside first before anybody else, pretending that it's a robbery, ties up the husband and wife and says, if you don't do anything, you won't be harmed. Goes back out to the car, tells Watts and the girls to go in, and they proceed to murder them. So again, he's distancing himself from what actually happened. I didn't kill them, but I mean, you're still a pretty big part of that.
Yeah, it's classic distancing and softening of severity, language, and so on there. That he was doing. I've just looked. He does mention Text in this interview, but it is a very strange reference, so I can't give you anything about it.
Shelley's in my boat. She says, "Are you sure Jack doesn't know Charlie?" Because, dude, every time I get busted, you're right on the fucking this is trippy as fuck, dude.
I've spent a lot of time with Charlie this week, so I do feel like I know him in some ways.
Because I mean, every single thing so far is kind of like it. What you're doing without even knowing it, you're referencing things that make me go into different parts of the story. It's crazy.
Wow. Okay,
I'll take it.
This is super.
And I'll put it in the deck and I'll deal it. You dig? And if you don't like the way I deal it, then don't give it to me. You dig what I'm saying? But when you give it to me, then it's mine. I deal it any way I want. If I tell it to jump, it'll jump. If it don't, you dig what I'm saying? Then it's not mine. Because I could ask you no more than I could do for you. In other words, if I'm with you, I'm totally there with you. There's no bullshit. I'm not your leader. I'm not your follower. You dig? But if you want to get up and ride, we'll ride, and I'll be right there with you. You see what I'm saying? I don't count pennies. I'm not playing little petty games. You know who I ride with? I ride in Venice, California with straight Satan. There's no...
You remember the day you were arrested?
The Straight Satanist was a motorcycle gang that he dealt drugs with. He bought LSD, mescaline, and had a lot of issues with the Straight Satans as well.
There's just a bit in that which I didn't spot before because I do not know anything about this story, but it's something he's just said there. If you want to give me your life, I'll take it, which I thought was a reference around murder before, and him, having disregard for life. But I am wondering if that is some sort of cult-like mention. So you give me your life, I'll take it and I'll control it. But when you give it to me, then it's mine. I'll deal it any way I want. If I tell it to jump, it'll jump. So again, that's quite cult-like, as in having control of someone. And then he says, if it don't, you dig what I'm saying, then it's not mine. Because if I could ask you no more than I could do for you, in other words, if I'm with you, I'm totally there with you. So not quite sure what that bit at the end is there. Is it kind of like a bit of manipulative language? I'm with you. You go and do the bad thing. I'm with you. I'm right there with you.
Which is essentially what really happened. The one I just explained. Yeah. I'm here. I'm along for the ride, but actually I'm going to head outside while you do the murder. That to me would suggest some sort of cultishness there. And then, of course, what is any leader of any cult going to say? There's no bullshit.
I'm not your leader. I'm not your follower. Well, no one's going to sit there and go, I was the leader of all this. You know, no one is going to say that at all, no matter how nuts they are.
Dude, yeah, man. Super.
Yeah. One of these incompetent fucking assholes got me, put a pistol on me, and put handcuffs on me. And I've been in handcuffs for 18 years. That's the only reality he's got, is me in handcuffs.
Do you have any memories you want to talk about from before you had handcuffs on?
I don't remember. I don't remember anything. But I can't get any music out of this.
He avoided the hell out of that, yeah.
I can't get any music out of nothing. These motherfuckers cut me off of my
67,
music, see?
really.
And then they represent off to the little girls. Look, it's me, little girls.
Why don't we talk about what you think music is? You say it's not in...
Music is my soul. Music's the way I express. It's my religion. It's my religion.
You've also said sex is religion.
Yeah, sex is a reflection. Everything is a reflection of this. When you reflect
He'll
that,
bust
you
out some
reflect
weird
me.
hippie kung
I
fu
reflect
on
you.
So we got there.
Play a little piano. He ain't done.
That's me. But I put my soul into the sound. And then these fucking assholes steal it. And then they'll walk up and down and tell you, yeah.
So we got there. He talks about sex as a reflection. Everything's a reflection. When you reflect that, you reflect music. I reflect it music. So again, we've got this sort of dual thing going on. A reflection is not reality, is it? A reflection is seeing an image of what exists, or part of what exists. Also, he talks about music again, and I can't get my music out of nothing. They cut me off from my music. So again, I think that what you mentioned, the fact that this sort of record deal and recording career or writing career fell through, is a big source of annoyance to him. He mentions little girls in response to the music. Was he, and again, this would not be unusual with someone who's had a very bad upbringing, but was he gay, bisexual, or any rumors like that? Right, okay. Because I picked up a whole load of he's much more interested in men than women, and how he relates to men and so on. And
yeah,
I
he
wondered,
never had like a boyfriend, but he's pretty open about them being open within the orgies of the family.
So in what he seems to care about most, so being cut, he says I was cut off from the music, and what he actually seems to care about most is being cut off from the little girls. So I wonder, and I don't think that is some sort of unhealthy interest in little girls. I think that's that he wanted to be idolized by women, which maybe if he was feeling, especially at that time, he might have felt like less like a man if he had urges towards other men. Then potentially he thought that if he had these women pop fans, you remember, at the time the women would really throw themselves at recording artists. Yep. So if he felt like that would make him feel like more of a man, more of a success, so not very unusual that someone wanted a music career to get laid, basically, or the appearance of getting laid. So I wonder if that was, again, it's this thwarted music career. It's that sort of dreamer's thing. If only all of this had come through, then I would not be the jam that I am now.
It was crazy. He got very close. Terry Melcher, the record producer, who is Doris Day's son, came out to the ranch and listened to him and the girls play like 14 songs, and again he got an actual recording demo, again done by Terry Melcher. He got very, very close, dude. If you look through some of the archives, and some celebrities try to distance themselves from him, but dude, he was hanging out with Neil Young and like the Mamas and the Papas, and some of these famous people. Like Neil Young actually is one of the few that will do it in an interview. Says he remembers Charlie and remembers hanging out, and he had a lot of talent.
Wow,
just pretty wild. I mean,
well, yeah, I guess so.
This is me, baby, and this is me, Rubu, but that ain't them. It's just a car.
I also can't lie, I actually really like psychedelic and folky type music from the 60s, and I actually like Charlie's songs. I can't even lie. I think he had a lot of talent as well.
Copy reflection of, they won't let the reality of.
You said that you're a reflection of everything around you.
Sure, what else could a child be? When it goes into you, you're going to reflect it sooner or later. If I'm going like this, Pretty soon you're going to reflect that. All children do.
What about good and evil? Spoken about beyond good and evil. You want to elucidate on that a bit?
Well, evil. In order to put this world into order, how much evil do you think would have to be? You see what I'm saying? In other words, just to think world peace up underneath these incompetent fucking assholes that run these places. You dig what I'm saying? What kind of man you think would have that in his head? You dig? They bring all these Indians over from India, and they all sit on their, and you know, they all come like they got the great answer, you dig? But they don't even know how to speak English. They don't even know what the English words mean, you know? Who has the master plan in English?
Well, that kind of gets back to the race issue.
No, English has nothing to do with races. When a guy speaks English,
That's pretty racist.
he understands the English thought. All
Even
the
Nikolas
English
Schreck's
thought
like,
that
well,
came from
you
the
know,
English
I love
words
Satan, but
came
it was
from the
kinda
English
racist.
mind. You know, I can't speak in Poland or Chinese. I can understand what I'm understanding in English.
Right, stop there.
History of them that have been evil.
I think so. I don't want to excuse the guy or anything, but I think this is all quite a sad passage, because he talks there about what else would a child be when it goes into you. You're going to reflect it sooner or later. So this is him very much, I think, saying, I had a bad upbringing, or, you know, my parents were terrible people. So what more am I going to be than a terrible person? Because that is what is in me. That is what is inside me. I'm going to be like this. Pretty soon you're going to reflect that. All children do. And you'll notice his speed, his cadence slowed down a hell of a lot there, as if he was really feeling it there.
That's a pretty deep thought, too. One thing that I will say about Manson videos, not to cut you off, but like, or interviews, is, dude, he will say stuff that absolutely will register, and you'll be like, okay, that makes sense to me. And then like his next thing will be in outer space.
Like the bit about the Indians.
Yes, yes.
But, I'll tell you what I think about that, which is that the type of Indians that I think he's talking about were the Indians who were very much at peace, very much, in harmony with the world, very relaxed, very sorted people. And I think he has resentment for people like that who have peace inside their heads, who are at one with the world and do not have all these conflicting thoughts or so on going in his head, because it just doesn't make sense. These Indians can't be happy because they don't speak English. It makes no sense whatsoever. He's just jealous. He just wants to put them down. He just wants to say how they can't truly be happy. And that whole session is quite sad, because he's, I think, acknowledging that he's had a crappy upbringing, which has contributed to make him who he is. I think I should say I completely agree with you that many people have had crappy upbringings and raised themselves up to be absolute superstars of people. But he's then just showing all this disdain for people who are happy within themselves. And I think there's a huge insecurity within himself there, that he can't enjoy seeing other people being happy because he's not happy himself.
Yeah, dude, that's a great perspective and outlook on that. Yeah, dude, I've often been torn. I've actually went back and forth on Charles Manson and the story. I mean, since high school, dude, this is one of the ones that has hooked me for my entire life. And just seeing some of the new stuff that's come out now with Tom O'Neill, and finding the Nikolas Schreck, this interview, and then some of the deeper dives that he's done and some of his ideas. Like, again, when I put all three things together, and I think the most unreliable one is the prosecutor's narrative. I think that he left out a lot of stuff because he wanted to nail the family, but he wanted to nail Charlie as the cult leader, as the main focus. And I mean, and again, a lot of people will put that to, he was going to be writing a book. He wrote Helter Skelter immediately after this. That goes into his pocket at the end of the day. And then when Tom O'Neill was doing his deep research, and before Bugliosi died in the teens, he got to do a lot of interviews with him. And as he got closer and closer to unveiling stuff, and he would show that to him, he got very combative and started threatening to sue him if he ever released any of this information, because his narrative started to kind of crumble under some of this research. So, but yeah, dude, Manson is such a he's a weird individual, man.
Very, very.
My personal stance. I actually from watching this stuff for a long period of time, listening to him talk, I think he is an actual racist. Like, I think he hates black people. Especially with some quotes that he's had in some interviews. He'll always kind of play it back and try to treat it as like, oh, we're all just humans or people, but he's always very disparaging to any other race.
Yeah, as I need to go in a couple of minutes. I will just, when we go back to that bit where he was talking about racism, where he treaded very carefully on it. He tried to do that, my race, I am my race, which is a little bit like the all lives matter things that, you know, someone comes out and goes, oh, I'm not racist because all lives matter, you know, black,
right.
white, black, whatever, rather than someone who can go, oh yeah, black people have a real hard time of it and have systemically, you know, been trodden upon for centuries. And so maybe we should listen to what they have to say about things rather than trying to say, all races matter. And he seems to be giving off the same sort of vibe as kind of like, all races matter, you know, there is no such thing as race, we are all just people. And it's like, no. And like we saw there, Indians don't speak English. I mean, that's pretty much what's happening in the UK at the moment. It's because people don't speak English, therefore they must be wrong.
Yeah. We see a lot of that today, actually.
I don't place no emphasis on history because they'll all lie. The truth is that your history books are full of bullshit. Most of your books are full of bullshit. You know that. Being a writer
so he'll
yourself.
say some shit like that where I'm like, yeah, you know what? Fuck the man. And I agree with that, right? Because, like, I'm very anti-establishment when it really comes down to it. But, like, yeah, I think he's out of his mind.
Most of it's trash. And it's just for money. If I lived with you for about a month or two, then you would have a whole different concept of me. You wouldn't think the same thing of me. Your whole opinion of me would change.
See, I think that's
not only your
that's
opinion
actually
of me,
pretty introspective as well. Like, that's the truth, dude. Anybody out here, if we live together for, you know, you're really going to see that real person. You're going to, you know what I mean? That's a pretty interesting thing to randomly say.
Yes, but then listen to the next bit.
Oh,
oh yeah.
Your opinion of you would change. And we would kind of reflect off into each other to where we become a part of. That's the world I've always lived in. Huh?
People don't know who you are.
Who am I?
Yeah.
I'm anybody I can get away with being. I'll take his clothes and put his boots on and get the hell out of here. Walk on down the road and be a hobo. If I had a good chance. I don't like killing. I don't kill bushes. I don't kill trees. I don't eat animals. I don't like killing. But I'm just like anybody else. I can, when I'm pushed to do that, I can do that just as easy as eating a piece of steak or cooking a chicken.
You want to talk about the art that you've done, the string art, and
I
what
did
you
see
put
the
into that?
Oh, that ain't about nothing.
Well, you say you
Yeah, this looks like you put a lot of research into this, man. Isn't it funny you got so many people play acting you? So many people play acting you, you never get a chance to play act yourself.
Right, stop that. So there you have your cult leader, because he says, if I lived with you for about a month or two, then you would have a whole different concept of me. I guess that's kind of true for absolutely anyone, like you were saying. You wouldn't think the same thing about me. Your whole opinion of me would change. Not only your opinion of me would change, your opinion of you would change. And we would kind of reflect, and here we've got that reflection going on again, reflect into each other to where we become part of, that's the world I've always been in. Who are you then, huh? Who are you then is asked, and he says, huh? So again, who are you? Question you need to think about. So he goes, huh? People don't know who you are. And he says, who am I? So he asks the question again to himself just to give him this thinking time. And then he says, I'm anybody I can get away with being, which is the theme that I've seen all the way through, which is he plays a part. He's a mirror image. He reflects things. He's not really ever wanting to be nailed down as to who he is. He can change his personality to be the person that he wants to be at any time there. And then when he's asked about something later on, just towards the end of that, he says, It looks like you put a lot of research into this, man. Isn't it funny? You've got so many people play acting you. So many people play acting you. You never get a chance to play act yourself. And I think that is the big theme I've got from everything I've looked at here, is he is playing a character at any particular time. His whole way of being is playing a character. Again, probably driven by the insecurity of not wanting anyone to see who he really is, but he just plays whichever character he thinks will suit himself at the best at the time.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I love this. This is really interesting to me.
Well, this is important to what we're doing here, too, isn't it?
Yeah. Would be great.
How much time we got here?
Until about 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
You want to talk about what it means to be an outlaw?
That's just being free, being yourself, being whatever you are. I like this, man. It's a little better than the other piece of shit they wrote that said it was mine. They lie, man. They lie so fucking much. And they lie, and then they turn around and represent you young people that we're the guys up here. Let us teach you, kids. Let us teach you what's going on. And they don't know what's going on. And they won't face what's going on, even if they did do what was going on.
Do you think that your thought has had an influence on young people now? You think that's...
I'll put it to you this way. When I was a little kid in the streets, I was smoking grass. And there wasn't but a few people smoking grass. I come to jail as a beatnik. I don't know whether you remember beatniks. But what your hippies were of the 60s were what we were of the 50s. Well, we got ate up by the system. And then when I got back out, the hippie was a takeoff on the beatnik, as the beatnik was a takeoff on the bohemian, or the bohemian was a takeoff on the boobskaboop. In other words, just loop-de-loops and circles that come in and out of these places.
It always seems like you weren't really a hippie in the sense that you represented order.
I didn't represent nothing.
No.
I didn't represent anything. I represented me. I represented a motorcycle, a sleeping bag, and a guitar. And all that other shit's a DA's. He put all that shit on me, man. There's a bunch of broads that follow me around, but there's always broads following me around.
What about this myth about the process and Robert De Grim's?
No, that's a bunch of horse shit.
Did you ever meet them?
No, I don't. Yeah, I know him. I know him spiritually. I know everything. I know everything.
You lived there
I know
on
everything,
Cold
brother.
Street,
Yeah, I was in the same vibration as all those people. Yeah. In other words, you're with somebody, you know they're there, you're running with them. Oh, you know what I'm saying? You're out in the bushes with them, and you're coyotes with them, or you're spiritually allied with them in the scorpions, or you're spiritually allied with them in the awarenesses. And see, you notice this guy? As I'm talking, he's going through all kinds of changes. Well, I'm spiritually allied with this dude. See?
You talked about the wolf too. That was spiritually
Yeah, I'm spiritually allied with that character too. Yeah. Yeah. In other words, the ways of the animals I identify with more than I do with the ways of the humans. Humans are pretty stupid. Humans won't survive. Humans ain't going to survive. Not the way they're going.
Think they're going to destroy themselves?
Yeah, definitely. They're going to destroy
Stop there.
everything.
He gets crazier. I've actually just looked at my notes for the next part of this, and I've got very little because he seems to have just gone off on one there. But again, just this disrespect for humans. He identifies with animals more than I do with humans. Humans are pretty stupid. Humans won't survive. Humans ain't going to survive. Not the way they're going. You think they're going to destroy themselves? He says, yeah, definitely. So just doesn't have a lot of respect for the human race whatsoever.
Which is also, very telling with what he sent some folks out to do that night,
Yep.
And I do believe that I don't think that he sent them there to necessarily kill Sharon Tate and all the folks that were there in that house tonight. I think that he thought that Terry Melcher still lived there, and he had an individual that he wanted to have killed, which was the record producer who fucked his life up.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to have to go soon. I'm going to have to go soon, by the way. I just realized I'm neglecting my own channel. So I'll have to get across to them. Look, that, to me, where is it? So I made notes, and
would you be down to do a part 2 of this one?
Yeah, it was. Music came up a lot. He's jealous of those with talent. That was what came through from reading that whole thing. And I think that music was the #1 theme. So insecurity is not really a theme. It's something that comes out in his words. Some of the other stuff about his childhood and so on, again, that's something that came out just inspecting his words. Music, something that he mentions. Therefore, it's a priority in his head. And yeah, this is just one interview that we're sort of halfway through, but I have to think this thwarted music career has led to quite a lot of what has gone on there, which is insane when you think about it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, Jack, we'll have to get you back on here hopefully soon to get back into this, because yeah, man, this is so intriguing to me.
We're not very far into it either, are we?
Dude, I know, if we just keep dude. So yeah, okay. I'm gonna let Jack go. Dude, thank you first of all for coming in. All of his shit's down in the description, and we will have him back for part 2 very soon. Jack, thank you, dude.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go over to my channel now to look at someone else in jail, funnily enough, talking.
Hell yeah. And go over there immediately. Yeah. And if any of the mods wouldn't mind putting the link in the chat, thank you all so much. Jack, thank you, brother.
Thank you very much for having me. Let's look forward to part 2.
Dude, I'll get with you in the messages. Thanks, dude.
Cheers.
Later.
Nothing to see.